but we are delighted to be here in Addis Ababa in Ethiopia. This is a country for us who have traditionally exported its best talent, which was its runners. So the runners have gone all over the world and have won Olympic titles and world titles, including the man beside me here. And we have always seen Ethiopian runners coming to Europe, coming to Asia, coming to America and competing. But now I think we're at a real reflection point in history, because Ethiopia is now ready to start welcoming back not alone its top athletes, but also its top, to bring international athletes to Ethiopia. So from our side, do you want me to start again? Will I start again? To face here? Yeah, I'll start here. Okay. I'll go again. Okay. So, very productive meeting on behalf of World Athletics. It was a long overdue welcome in Addis Ababa. We have seen for many years, go back to 1960, we have seen Baby Bikela winning Olympic marathons. We have seen Mira Shifter. We've went on to Haile Gebrselassie, and we've always seen Ethiopian runners really performing on the world stage around the world. And now we're at an inflection point in history, because Ethiopia is now ready to organise its own competitions. And this was the main reason for the visit of World Athletics. So we visited yesterday the National Stadium, which is a very, very exciting project. It has maybe 8 more months it will be ready. But clearly that National Stadium will be ready to organise big international competitions. So from our side, it's very, very exciting from World Athletics that we will be bringing our big events to Addis Ababa. But it's also very exciting from Ethiopian Athletic Federation and the city of Addis Ababa and the country of Ethiopia that they can look forward now to having big international competitions in the stadium. The Ethiopian Athletic Federation should be congratulated for the development that it has done for the sport of athletics. But I also would like to thank the Minister for Sport, the Mayor of Addis Ababa and the Prime Minister of the country for the continued investment that they're putting into tracks and stadiums in Ethiopia. It's a very exciting future for the sport of athletics in Ethiopia, and World Athletics are very happy to be part of that journey. Okay, well, the first thing I noticed in Addis Ababa was we went to the academy, the National Sports Academy, on the way from the airport, and I just saw so many different world-class runners training at 7 o'clock in the morning, and it was a real surprise to see how many top-class runners there are in Ethiopia, because as you know, we can only have 3 athletes per country for Olympic Games. So clearly there's a big foundation underneath all the top athletes. In terms of the infrastructure required for World Championships and the competitions that Ethiopia can hope to organise, well, first and foremost, you need a stadium, you need a track. It needs to be on the highest level of ratification from World Athletics. The stadium, the National Stadium, is on the road to being at the highest level. So it will now be eligible to organise all of our top events. In terms of the future events that Ethiopia can organise, well, World Cross Country for sure, but I think the ambition of the Federation and of the Minister for Sport is to organise big events in that stadium. So the events that can be potentially qualified is the World Athletics Continental Tour, then you have the Diamond League, then you have the World Athletics Under-20 Championships, and then you have the World Athletics Championships. And all of those should be on the agenda for Ethiopian sport and Ethiopian athletics over the next 10 or 15 years. There are no limits to what Ethiopia can do. It's the capital of Africa, and soon it'll become the capital of world athletics. The first question is an easy one. How close is Ethiopia to organising these competitions? Closer than they ever have been before in the history of the sport in Ethiopia. So because they have the infrastructure, you have the ambition, and I have to say as well, you have a very highly professional and highly competent Ethiopian Athletic Federation. This was not always a situation. So the relationship now between World Athletics and the Ethiopian Athletics Federation is very, very close. We are working in close partnership. I think the proof of that is that we're visiting now. This is only the start of that relationship, and we're working in very close partnership with the Ethiopian Athletics Federation. And the second part of your question was?
How close?
Well, very, very close. I don't want to steal the Colonel's announcement, but I feel there will be an international athletics meeting in Addis Ababa this year. I think the Ethiopian Athletics Federation is planning to have an international athletics meeting in Addis Ababa. It will be an introductory level competition, but the ambition is for that meeting to grow and grow. You cannot go from the school playground to the Olympic final. Even when you're organising competitions, it's a step-by-step process. So the fact that the Ethiopian Athletic Federation and the city and the country has bid for a World Championships shows the ambition that they have. And after visiting the stadium, and after visiting the city, and after meeting the executive committee of Ethiopian Athletics Federation, I can see now why they're doing it, because they have some really good people leading the sport in Ethiopia. It's only a matter of time. For sure, the ambition is to organise the biggest event, the World Championships. But as the Colonel knows, you have to go step by step on the process. So you have to have a one-day meeting, an international one-day meeting. Then I think the ambition will be to have a Diamond League in Addis Ababa, to bring the stars of Ethiopian athletics back home to race against the best athletes in the world in front of a full stadium in Addis Ababa with the home crowd. And that's a big part. We also want to grow the sport in Ethiopia. So not only that it's Olympic Games and World Championship, but that it's a very big base at the pyramid to go up to Olympic Games and World Championship. So it's a matter of time. It's the most exciting part of the history of the federation in Ethiopia. It's one thing to develop runners to win Olympic title. Another thing is then to organise a competition. It's a huge challenge. But right now, it's very much on the agenda of Ethiopian Athletic Federation. And we will be with them hand in hand on that journey. I think the first assistance we gave is to actually come and visit, to meet the people behind. The people are very, very important. To build a stadium can be done anywhere in the world. You need the right people to develop the right officials, to coach the athletes, to plan, to have the relationships with the government. So we are here to support them in all of that. A big part of the journey for the Federation now is the education piece, to upskill the level of officials. Now the sports technology is a very high requirement. It hasn't been used here before in Ethiopia. That's the next stage, to get all the people involved in organising sport and athletics in Ethiopia comfortable with all that technology. It will be a very steep learning curve. This will happen quite quickly because my good friend here, the Colonel, has not patience. He wants everything to happen tomorrow. So I can see that this will happen quite quickly. But this will be a very exciting journey in the shorter term. This is not 10 years down the road. This is 2, 3, 4 years. These events will start happening here. The training courses here for all their officials, for all their competition managers. We've already started that process of education. So we will do a lot more of that. Like I say, the Federation is very active. It's very much hand in hand with World Athletics. We're working very close together. It's coming from a little bit of a distance back, but it's making up a lot of ground very quickly. And there's another lap to go in the race yet. The bell has not rang, so they're very much preparing themselves for the competition. To answer your first question, what are the biggest obstacles? Lack of desire is one of the options, lack of ambition. Now there's a strong ambition. If you have the political support, and the Prime Minister is very, very supportive of athletics, if you have the ability to invest in infrastructure, and we can see that it's not only athletics that's improving in Addis Ababa. I can see the footpaths, the cycle paths, that the city is so much more modern and so much clean and welcoming of the African Union leaders. So the city is on the journey. Athletics is part of that journey. Athletics can bring sports tourism, sports diplomacy. It can inspire the next generation of young Ethiopian talent to go away from their phones and to be part of sport. So you mentioned the natural challenges of altitude, but we're living in a world of global warming when we have competitions very early in the morning at our World Championships or very late at night to avoid the hot part of the day. We will adapt to wherever we need to be. That's the reality. It's the same situation all over the world. And you mentioned about the 10,000 metres. Well, for sure, for Los Angeles Olympics, the 10,000 metres will be on the track. There are no plans yet to take it off the track. It's very much part and parcel of our track and field programme, and it will be there to stay. To make what form of 10,000 metres?
Yeah, no, race walking.
Oh, race walking. Well,
yeah.
Sure. Race walking does not have a huge history in Africa at all, but it has a strong history in Ethiopia and a strong history in some of the East Africa parts. So, for sure it's developing. We've seen Ethiopian athletes finish in the top places of the Olympics. Again, we're living in a complicated world. The athletes need experience in Europe. Visas are a challenge for a lot of athletes travelling now. We saw the situation in the United States is a complicated process for visas. So it's the old saying, if you can't bring Muhammad to the mountain, bring the mountain to Muhammad. If you're having competitions here, the young people will see it and they'll be inspired to participate. Yes. So to answer your first question, what is the timeline? The timeline is unlimited. This is a time of great change in the city of Addis Ababa. So I visited the Addis Ababa, I think, stadium, I think it's called, the national stadium. So this is, the completion date is end of 2026, more or less, end of 2026. I visited this morning the stadium, remind me the name? Akalki Stadium, which was great news for me because it was only a football-only stadium. Now they're going to put in a track, and they want that stadium is planned to be finished, I think, in the next 4 or 5 months. We visited also this morning the stadium in the city centre, Addis Ababa Stadium. Again, the track is planned to be in there in the next 6 months. All of this is happening, we hope, before elections happen, which is always a good excuse to speed things up, as you know, as a political journalist. And then you will see more knowledge and more certainty about what events can happen here. So the timeline is endless. You know, I think, like the Colonel will know, for athletics, you can't say, I want to win the Olympics next year. It's a long-term process. But the most important news is the fact that Ethiopia is on the road, and it hasn't been on the road before to organising international competitions. In terms of technology gaps here, there are no gaps. This is a very connected city. This is hosting the African Union. You know, I've been here on my phone, my laptop, everything's working perfect. It's working in the airport, it's working in the hotel. There are no technological gaps. This city is ready to organise events at the highest quality. And sometimes countries are very hard on themselves. Don't be so hard on yourself. This city needs to have more confidence. And you can see it's now a city that's looking out because it's building stadiums and it's inviting people back. And I met the Minister for Sport this morning. He was very enthusiastic about the sports tourism benefits of events, and the sports diplomacy benefits, and the sports imagery benefits, and the public relations. The story of Ethiopia has not been told to the world. That's also the reality. Yesterday I went to the palace. I learned all about the history. I learned all about the African Union, about the founding fathers, about the role that Ethiopia has played. I learned all about the permanent hosting of the African Union here. This story is not told so well in the world. The opportunity for you as journalists is to tell the story in partnership with athletics, because it's the most global sport. It's the number one sport in the Olympics. And that's the great opportunity that you have to bring more tourism here, to raise your standards, to raise your economy here. For example, the story of Ethiopia from a global perspective has been very good long distance runners winning races around the world. That has been the story. It's been one-eyed story. The story now has moved on, that Ethiopia is a modern country. Ethiopia is building modern facilities. Ethiopia wants to attract international athletes to come here. That story will tell itself in time. People will come here exactly like me. I was not aware that Ethiopia had not been colonized, only one of 2 African countries. I learned yesterday. I was so happy to learn that. I learned the history about Ethiopia against the Italians in the 1930s. It's such a great story that doesn't get told. We learned stories of droughts and famines about Ethiopia in the 1980s. There's a new chapter in your history now. And sport as a tool for diplomacy is the right time to tell it. And you have the right people involved. You know, when you meet someone like your minister who's so enthusiastic to bring events here, you meet the federation, the colonel, you meet his executive committee, all top class people, all experts in their field. That's the right story to start telling. And the storytelling, you said, how ready is World Athletics? I've already spoken to my president last night, Sebastian Coe, that he has to come here for the opening of the stadium. I will tell my colleagues about what I saw because, quite frankly, I was shocked. I was really shocked yesterday. Most people are shocked in a bad way. I was shocked in a good way about how well the city worked. We knew the runners can run fast. Always the runners have ran fast. But how good the infrastructure was. Even the traffic. The traffic moves, no problem. The hotels, the high quality of hotels, the number of hotels. This was not what I was expecting, because this is a story that hasn't been told about Ethiopia. And everybody has that responsibility. You as the media, the federation, the ambassadors, the athletes, everybody has that responsibility. And we as World Athletics, you know, Ethiopia for us is the top 3 countries in the world for athletics. Every time on medals, I have to laugh at the colonel. He would say, we are so disappointed in Tokyo, we only won 4 medals. So few countries in the world are winning 4 medals. So the standards in Ethiopia are so high. So at some point as well, you have to give credit for everything you're doing right and not always be looking at what can we do better, because the country's doing a lot right at the moment. It's a very prosperous country, and that's not the story that gets told around the world. I'm happy to give. So the first question is, why has the gap closed? It's a very competitive world. It's very, very competitive. The 10,000 metre race in Tokyo was very tactical. There was a lot of people together in the group at the last lap. In the Colonel's day, the Ethiopians were always alone at the last lap. So tactics maybe could have been a bit different. You know, sport must be unpredictable. You cannot predict the result. Second point I want to make about the Ethiopian distance runners is the federation is not only developing distance runners. You know, we have a new 400 metre record, that 44 point. The general or the colonel here is looking to bring relay teams from Ethiopia to the World Relays, which this year is in Gaborone in Botswana. So he's trying to develop all the different aspects of the sport. That is not only 3 athletes in long distance. In terms of Ethiopian representation at the leadership level, you're absolutely right. I don't think that's the fault of World Athletics. It's probably that Ethiopia wasn't looking outward enough. And I can tell you in the last 6 months or 9 months, the Colonel has been asking me, how can we get more involved at World Athletics level? And I explained last night to him and the executive committee, next year is a big year for World Athletics. It's election year. The president of World Athletics, Sebastian Coe, will be stepping down. So we will have a new president, but we'll have elections for all positions. And I'm sure we will see strong candidates from Ethiopia. Mm-hmm. There's a very strong possibility that he will come. A very strong possibility. He absolutely wants to come. You know, the language that we're speaking now with the Ethiopian Federation is different than ever before. The language now is organising competitions, what we need to do, what competitions can we organise. That's the way we do business now. Now we have something to discuss.
What was the language previously?
The language previously maybe was silence. Was maybe silence. And that's not anybody's fault. It's probably just the way the world was. But the language now is certainly a lot more active and vibrant.
For sure. Enjoy your kids.
Thank you very much. Oh, well, thank you very, very much. I feel really like an Ethiopian, so thank you.
Shall we open it?
Oh.
This is Ethiopian traditional talk.
Thank you so much.
You're very welcome.
Now I'm really an Ethiopian. Very good.